There was a story, I think it was last week in the Federalist, and we saw it, and we began to do our own homework on it because it was very, very disturbing. And it came out of the Federalist. While Democrats claim to engage in talks on bipartisan gun legislation in good faith, the White House is behind the scenes trying to shut down nationwide ammunition sales. In northwestern Missouri, major government-owned ammunition plant is now facing closure as the Biden administration escalates its war on American gun owners. The Lake City Ammunition Factory is one of the largest manufacturers of 5.56 and 2.23 ammunition, which is the most popular caliber for the most targeted firearm in the country, the AR-15. In operation since 1941 to produce ammunition for the U.S. Army, the government contracts with the private firm Winchester to run the enterprise and sell any excess supplies to the open market. So here's what happened. The government called Winchester, apparently, allegedly, and said, you got a cute little business going on here. And it'd be horrible for something to happen to that business. You know what I'm saying? So what I'd like you to do is maybe stop selling the 30% of the ammunition to the private market. And Winchester said, most likely, well, if we do that, then if there's a war, we can't ramp up to be able to make more ammunition for the war machine. I don't think you heard me. You're going to stop selling that ammunition. Now, celebrity voices are impersonated in this scenario, but I think that's pretty much what happened there. Otherwise, maybe we find somebody else to make our ammunition. You know what I'm saying? So public-private partnerships always work out so very well. So we started doing our homework. It looks like Susan Rice was involved in this. But again, nobody's talking because they're all afraid of their legs being broken. One group that we have spoke to that knows the situation very well is the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and we have Larry Keene on with us. Hello, Larry. How are you?
Good to be with you, Glenn. How are you?
Very good. Very good. So, I know it wasn't quite as mob-like, perhaps with Susan Rice involved. Maybe it was more. But can you tell me, is the gist of what I just said correct?
Basically, yes. Winchester was contacted by the Army that runs or owns the Lake City ammunition facility that Winchester runs under a contract. And they were told that the Army is considering issuing a policy edict in which Winchester would no longer be able to sell into the commercial market excess ammunition above the needs of the military to the commercial market, which accounts for between 30 and 40% of the market for 5.56 ammunition, which is the caliber most commonly chambered for modern sporting rifles, including the AR-15. So it would have a devastating effect on the commercial market for gun owners, as well as to harm national security and military preparedness.
So there's a couple of things here. First of all, let's talk about the commercial side. The commercial side, you drop 30 to 40%. Your price, I've read, your price of ammunition would go up 3 to 4 times. Is that true?
Obviously, economics being supply and demand, if you cut the supply that is already strained by 30+%, it's going to have a significant impact on the price in the commercial market, for sure. It's also going to have an impact on what the military pays for ammunition manufactured at the Lake City facility, because the cost, the economics of running that business for Winchester would change dramatically.
So the other part of this is for the military, not just in cost, but the reason why, if I'm not mistaken, the reason why Winchester has that 30% and they make 30 or 40% of the commercial market is so they have the staff in case there's ever a major war. They have the staff. They don't have to ramp up. They can just shift all of that over to the military immediately. So we have enough ammunition to be able to fight a war. Is that true?
That's precisely correct. And if they can't sell into the commercial market, those employees are gone. That production capacity is gone. And in a surge situation, let's say hypothetically we were engaged in a shooting war with an adversary like Russia, China, or something, the ability of Winchester to meet that surge in demand would not exist. We would not be able to meet that need, whereas now they can simply shift that production from the commercial market to the priority of meeting the needs of the warfighter. So that ability is gone, then we can't meet surge in demands, and the price that the military pays for the ammunition they get now, even in a non-surge situation, would go up considerably. And the sale into the commercial market also helps to fund capital expenditures at the Lake City facility. So it's not just, that Winchester sells that ammunition in the commercial market. They also are putting money back into the DoD for capital improvements, capital expenditures at Lake City, so that it is state of the art and can meet surge demands for the military.
So, as this was revealed last week, we had some congressmen start to write some letters to the White House. Some press started to sniff around, at least on the right side. We started to sniff around, and immediately the gates are closed to the White House, and they say this is, and I want to quote them here. The reports on a possible ban are way off. Do you believe that? I mean,
the person making that
go ahead.
Is either woefully uninformed of the facts, because there was a meeting at the highest levels of the military on Friday to discuss this very issue, or they are not being truthful. But it did happen. It is happening. And there is a letter from 50 House members that has gone to the White House yesterday, led by Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, in whose district the Lake City facility is located. And Senator Blunt's office from Missouri has been engaged in this issue as well. So, in 2015, the Obama administration tried to ban this ammunition under this incorrect legal theory that it was somehow armor-piercing ammunition. It is not, by definition, armor-piercing ammunition.
Okay, hold on just a second, because that's really important, because I just read another story today that said that this is armor-piercing ammunition. Now, you say by definition it's not. What does that mean?
Go look up the Gun Control Act, Section 921, and you can find the definition for armor-piercing ammunition. And if you look at this M855 green tip ammunition, it does not meet the definition of armor-piercing ammunition. It is not, by law, armor-piercing ammunition. So the Obama administration's effort in 2015 to somehow declare it armor-piercing ammunition was withdrawn when there was a reaction by Congress, and there were over 300,000 comments, public comments, to a notice that ATF had put out. They backed off, unable to make it illegal. The Biden administration now is trying to make it unavailable. And this is all because they can't pass a ban on modern sporting rifles. So if you can't ban the product, ban the ammunition.
Without burning any bridges here, because I think it's very important that we know the truth, and I certainly don't want to cause any trouble. How do we know your information is accurate? How do we know the White House is lying here?
We have had direct conversations with officials at Winchester, and we have had conversations with staff from Senator Blunt and Congressman Hartzler's office. So this is, in fact, happening. And they may have decided they've been caught with their hand in the proverbial cookie jar, but for them to say it was never under consideration, again, either the person making that statement is woefully uninformed of the true facts or is misleading the public.
Another way of saying that is lying. The White House has been lying about many things. They continue to say things are conspiracy theories or they're or inaccurate, and then all of a sudden, what do you know? It turns out to be true. Has this stopped? Do you know? Is the pressure off of Winchester? Is this not going through now that they've been nabbed?
We have not been informed that this has definitively been withdrawn and is no longer being considered. But this is not the first time we've seen an effort by first Obama, now Biden, to ban this ammunition and to make it unavailable. So we are going to continue to pursue this issue to ensure that this is not no longer a recurring problem, and that that whoever holds the contract for the Lake City facility has the right to sell this excess ammunition into the commercial market because, again, it's necessary for military preparedness. It's important for the taxpayer, and it helps to fund capital expenditures at the facility. And it's important, obviously, for Second Amendment rights to be exercised.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Larry, is there anything the public can do?
They should contact their elected representatives in Washington, their congressmen and their representatives, and insist that this issue be fixed once and for all, so we don't have to revisit this every couple of years.
And how do we fix it once and for all?
We make it clear in statute that whoever holds that contract has the right to sell this excess ammunition in the commercial market for the reasons we've just talked about.
Okay. Thank you so much, Larry. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, keeping our Second Amendment right safe. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll stay in touch. That's Larry King. He's from the National Shooting Sports Foundation about the Missouri ammunition plant that the Biden administration is trying to curtail, which would cut off a third to 40% of the .223 and .556 ammunition, which is the ammunition used by modern sporting rifles. I find this story that's coming out of Missouri to be really insidious. Again, the president said yesterday, he was talking about gun control, and he said there's many ways to skin a cat. And believe me, they're going to use every way to skin a cat. Here's the one thing that the Democrats are very good at that the Republicans suck at, and that is, while they're not in power, they are making plans. And the plans that were being laid before Biden won the White House, and we know because we reported, they were open about it, and we reported on it. They had committees getting together to find out, to look at all of the cabinet positions and to see what instruments they had or could be construed as having that they could turn those levels and change the way of our life without going to Congress. This is one of them. And, you know, if the White House wants us to believe that they're not doing this, you know, it's a bridge too far, because you would have to ask yourself, if you're a progressive, why wouldn't you be doing this? This is what ESG is all about. Why wouldn't you be shutting down the things, all of the funding to things that affect global warming or things that help guns on the street? Of course you would. If that's the way you're operating through an administrative arm, why wouldn't you be doing it? Of course they're doing it.
Yeah.
Of course they are. And it's very, very dangerous.
There was an interview with Chris Murphy, the guy who's negotiating the bipartisan gun control bill. and it was with the New York Times. So it was, arguing. The Times was basically saying, like, well, you're not getting enough here. You're not getting enough here. You need to get more. And his position was, look, what we need to do is pass this, even if it's not the best bill in the world, because what the goal of this is not just, to save lives, but it's also to convince Republicans that the sky won't fall on them politically if this thing passes. We just need to show them that if they go along with some of this, they're not going to get punished like they think they will. They're always scared of the sky falling. We need to show them that the sky won't fall. So it really is up to us to make sure, if something like this passes, to remind the Republicans that, yes, the sky will fall if you do something like this. It will. And we need to make sure it does.
Besides Cornyn, who is, because the phone should light up at Senator Cornyn's office. If you're in Texas, can you get me the names of all of the people that are involved in this on the Republican side? Because the sky needs to fall in on them right now.
Yeah,
needs to fall in.
4 of them, I think, are retiring. The other 6 are not up for election this year.
What cowards! What cowards!
And honestly, I would trade 9 of these senators for 1 toasted cheddar chalupa from Taco Bell. The only one who has any value in the group of 10 is Pat Toomey, who has always been a pretty good senator with one exception, which has been guns. Other than that, he's been pretty good. But the other 9 are just garbage.
I think you're asking too much to trade all of those
one
senators.
chalupa?
No, I don't think so. Stop being unreasonable. We're negotiating here. I'm so sick at the twisted power here. And we give them the power and the authority to say anything to anyone. And as long as they're saying it on the floor or in an official job, no one can say anything about it. But that's only the beginning of this problem. Here she is talking to Elliot Abrams, and she's driving to a point about Venezuela. I want you to listen to Representative Omar.
Mr. Adams, in 1991, you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of withholding information from Congress regarding your involvement in the Iran-Contra affair.
We have to stop. The Iran-Contra affair? You put somebody in Congress that has never heard of the Iran-Contra affair? Obviously, she's never heard of it. She's reading this. If you see the visual, she is reading it approximately 6 inches away from the paper. Her head is almost all the way down in the desk because she has absolutely no idea what she's talking about. She has no idea what she's talking about, and she thinks it's the Iran-Contra affair because the N looks like an R. So she says Contra. This woman is in Congress. She was Congress. She doesn't even know what the Iran-Contra affair is. And worse than that, she's in the middle of an attack against someone based on something she knows nothing about.
So let's continue on. You're going to need duct tape.
For which you were later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush. I fail to understand why members of this committee or the American people should find any testimony that you give today to be truthful.
If I can respond to that.
It wasn't a question. That was not a question. That was I reserve the right to my time.
It is not right.
That was not a question.
Committee can attack
on February 8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
That was not a question.
This is un-American. And this is not her that does it. This happens on both sides. But this is un-American. You cannot continue down this road where these clowns can say whatever they want and you can't respond. If I were him, I would have gotten up. I would not have sat there for this. This is an outrageous attack. And it's not just that. It goes much worse. Listen.
In that hearing, you dismissed as communist propaganda report about the massacre of El Mozote, in which more than 800 civilians, including children as young as 2 years old, were brutally murdered by U.S.-trained troops. During that massacre, some of those troops bragged about raping a 12-year-old girl before they killed them. Girls before they killed them. You later said
She's blatantly reading this.
that the U.S. policy in El Salvador was a fabulous achievement. Yes or no? Do you still
yes or no?
think so? Yes or no? Do you think that massacre was a fabulous
listen to this.
achievement that happened under our watch?
That is a ridiculous question, and I will
Yes
not
or
respond
no?
to it. No.
I
I'm
will
sorry,
ta-
Mr.
I will
Chairman,
take
but
that
I'm-
as a yes.
I am not going to respond to
Stop.
that kind of personal.
Stop.
Unbelievable.
Do you think the massacre, it's a yes or no question? No, I don't. I'll take that as a yes. Excuse me? Excuse me? First of all, what do you think about America that you could even ask that question? There isn't a single American that likes the idea that a massacre happened and we were somehow or another at all involved. America does not like the idea and will go after any troop, and we should, and put them in Leavenworth for the rest of their life if they're killing, maiming, raping people. They are there to protect people. If anyone in our service is there, I can guarantee you it would be 99.9% of the population that would say, yeah, they should rot in Leavenworth.
Of course.
The only reason why it might be lower is because they would think people like this will take and twist it, and now you're held for war crimes for something that you were asked to do.
You're right. Well,
in liberation.
War is ugly. However, rape of 12-year-olds is never involved in it. There's
Nope.
never part
It
of a
never
policy,
has-
at least of
never.
the United States, that
Never
exists for that.
Never. And how dare you? This is an American congresswoman who now says, do you think that was good policy? That was not our policy. But wait, there's more. Listen to the rest.
Yes or no? Would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide,
Oh, yeah.
if you believe
Totally.
they were serving U.S. interest, as you
Unbelievable.
did in Guatemala, El
Unbelievable.
Salvador, and Nicaragua?
I am not going to respond to that question. I'm sorry. I don't think this entire line of questioning is meant to be real questions, and so I will not reply.
Good for you.
Whether under your watch, a genocide will take place, and you will look the other way because American interests were being upheld, is a fair question. Because the American people want to know that anytime we engage a country, that we think about what our actions could be.
You
And
are
how
lecturing. You
We
really?
believe our values are being farthered. That is my
Farthered.
question. Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
I don't think anybody disputes that. The question I had for you is that does the interest of the United States include protecting human rights and include protecting people against genocide?
That is always the position of the United States.
Thank you.
You are not going to get a serious person
what
to
a
take a
dunce.
serious job in this country if that's who you put in Congress. That is the most insulting thing I've ever heard. Now, there are bad guys, in Congress. There are bad guys in government. There are bad guys in the public sphere. But if you really, truly believe that American interests come above genocide in a country where we are in,
Laughable.
It's laughable, especially how dare you as a Muslim, say those things while we have been fighting and freeing slaves that Muslims have taken because they started a deadly caliphate because we tried to free people.